person I am refuting today discussed the aspect of global warming in which that global warming is not caused by mankind. He did this by discussing climate changes, the greenhouse effect, and how a number of scientists agree with this position. And finally, he challenges the CFC theory. However, the error with these claims is that a large number of them do not have proper sightings, have no relation to his original and main claim, and finally, they are mostly made up of assertions rather than facts. So the first problem with this speech was when he discussed the climate changes and the polar ice caps. The statistic he gave was that 50% of the ice caps have melted. This statistic, however, has no citing and be considered only a random guess at best, or not credible. Another problem with the fact that he mentioned the ice caps is that it has no correlation to his main argument. The amount of ice caps remaining, whether it's a smaller amount or a large amount, doesn't really explain why humans are not behind global warming. The second claim had issues because there was no site explained for its evidence and doesn't correlate to his claim once again. He first begins to explain the process of greenhouse gases, but then states the project that is being done in order to limit the amount of carbon dioxide and that it's too high for pricing. Although it may have a negative effect on our economy, this again suffers the same problem in which it does not help to say whether or not mankind is causing global warming. Another supporting claim made within this argument was that 31,000 scientists say that there is not a sufficient amount of evidence to say that mankind is causing global warming. This once again, however, was stated without having a cite back behind it, leaving this statistic to not be as credible as an actual fact. And not only that, but this statistic in general doesn't really help because as I was gathering information, I found out that NASA had also gathered information on the topic, and they stated that 97% of climate scientists agree that climate warming trends over the past century are very likely due to human activities, and most of the leading scientific organizations worldwide have issued public statements endorsing this position, leaving that statistic to be questioned severely. And lastly, his last claim, which finally did relate to his topic, was that CFCs do not harm the ozone layer. This information was supported by a person, but the arguer failed to mention where he was or what his background title was, leaving reasoning that it may not be an actual credible person. And many scientists and organizations believe the opposite of that claim, that CFCs do harm the ozone layer. The Environmental Protection Association explains that the CFCs are so stable that only exposure to strong UV radiation breaks them down. When that happens, the CFC molecule releases atomic chlorine. One chlorine atom can destroy over 100,000 ozone molecules. The net effect is to destroy the ozone faster than it is naturally created. So this process, which is being true, is no doubt that the CFCs greatly harm the ozone layer at an alarming rate. So in conclusion, although I don't necessarily disagree with this position, this argument has too many flaws to be considered factual. There are not enough sightings, and there are severe biased statistics, and there are questionable evidence that goes along with it. Thank you.
All right, Quentin, what you've done is you have basically created your own structure for the responses, and it's a parallel structure to the advocate's claim. So instead of really directing your points at the advocate's claim, you're basically presenting your counterclaim and then putting the advocate's claim into contrast on it. So I don't want to say it's backwards, but it's definitely a kind of a reverse mirror way of looking at the image of the argument that you're talking about. The polar ice caps issue comes up, and I think you make good challenges that the advocate doesn't cite sources for their information. The big question here is, how does the polar ice caps prove or disprove the advocate's position? And you asked that question. It would be nice if there was an argument here to also suggest that there's a reason to doubt the advocate's position. I think it's perfectly legitimate to ask the question, say that the advocate failed to give us a correlation, and those are okay responses, but the old saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket just by saying, well, you don't have enough. I think you might want to reach into your back pocket, pull out a rock that you can throw and in fact, here's good evidence to believe that those changes are in fact due to global climate change that's caused by human activity. You kind of explained the problem with the Kyoto agreements, and that doesn't prove that it's human caused. It assumes that it's human caused. The challenge to the number of experts that he cites is okay. I thought your response with the NASA consensus information is appropriate given the argument that the advocate presented on that point. So we've got a good counterclaim on that particular point. It's not quite clear to me why the CFCs are treated the same way as carbon dioxide is being treated. And I'm not sure that they fit together in this particular argument. I think that would be a good issue to ask a question about also. On the other hand, you do see on this one, you did have an argument on that, and that is that there is good evidence to show that the CFCs have an impact on the ozone layer, right? Which was, like I said, it wasn't explained how that all connects to global warming, but like I said, you had the counter argument to go along with the challenge on this one, and I appreciated that. And as I said to several other people, I think you guys are doing a very good job. I think almost everybody tonight has done a pretty good job on doing a summary at the end of their argument, saying basically here's what this means and why you should be seeing this a particular way. So thank you for that.